I'm here with Joe Kane, industry consultant and video guru, with many strong opinions about UHD and the next generation of TV. Now, your panel today was very interesting, basically saying that pixels ain't all there is. There's a lot more that we need to talk about here. And we have a wonderful opportunity, really, to make the TV system, the next generation TV system, the way it should be.
Well, that was part of what I had to say here, is that people have HD TV sets and aren't getting out of them what they should be. So I look at UHD as an opportunity to finally make HD work. And
only 10 years late.
Well, but we know more now than we did then. And so there's much more of an opportunity. Now, there's much more coming in that this new system can be a lot more than anything HD was or is now. So I look at the opportunity to bring more as an opportunity to actually get the consumer involved more. As an example, there's choices of primary colors, choices of red, green, and blue, there's choices of grayscales, there's high dynamic range, there's high frame rates, and whatever. Everybody's going to decide what of those features they want to use for their particular content. There are going to be filmmakers that are going to object to going any faster than 24 frames. And so they're going to want to send their content to you at 24 frames. Somebody else wants to send at 120 hertz. In other words, we're going to expand the capability. And what I want to see out of this UHD system is everybody is going to pick and choose the color space they want, the frame rate they want, the bit rate they want, and they're going to send it down the pipe with instructions telling the set what to do. So I actually see this as a bonus in where most people aren't seeing HD the way they're supposed to. Eventually, I want UHD to allow the person who created the content to control the TV set so that consumers actually do have an opportunity. Now, I know the consumers are going to want the, oh, I don't really want that button, and yes, that will be available. But UHD has the opportunity to truly bring high definition to consumers in that the people supplying the program content can actually dictate what the set does.
Now, will the TVs have the ability to display different color gamuts, different dynamic ranges, different all these different aspects at the command of the metadata that comes along with the content?
Certainly the sets that conform to everything that UHD, I hope, will become, will have that capability. Now, what I see for existing consumers who already have their TV sets and want to hang on to them, what I see is a set-top box. And the set-top box, first of all, the TV set can identify itself to anybody so that it can go out and say, I'm a 1080p set and I have this capability. And so what can happen is information is coming down from the source that says, I'd really like to ideally be on a set that can do this, but I can also convert that signal to make it work with any existing set today. Which means that my vision for UHD means that every single person out there now that has a set that can be connected via HDMI can be a part of UHD. And they won't see all the benefits, and gradually they'll grow into wanting all the benefits, but the benefits will be there, and in the meantime they can use their existing TV set to take advantage of what I want to see come down the pipe for UHD.
Now, this actually answers one of my objections to current UHD TVs, which don't implement high dynamic range, don't implement increased color gamut or greater bit depth, and it would also apply to legacy HD TVs, as you say. If you have the right kind of content coming down the pipe and it can tell the set-top box or the TV can tell the set-top box, really, this is what I can do, and the set-top box can say, oh, okay, I'll adjust the content. That addresses that issue very nicely.
Well, and that's why I want a system where UHD is for everybody. Right now, UHD is for somebody who's going out and buying the more expensive set, the higher resolution set. But there's not enough going on for that to be attractive and to make a format. And besides the fact we all know what's going to change anyway. We all know what's going to get better. So right now, among the things where I'd like to turn this conversation is to connectivity. I think that UHD is not going to be implemented or not going to be defined until we define the connectivity. We've actually got to define the path of how we get from the source to the consumer. And once we've defined the path of connectivity, then we can take our time with implementing all of the ways of doing things. Because as long as we can connect, as long as we can get through that AV receiver that you just bought, and that concerns me that it's not only the TV set that you're going to have to replace, it's going to be the AV receiver, because everything is going to go through it as a switcher, as something that's going to pull the audio off. So it has to be capable of producing this new system. So if UHD is going to survive, I think the majority of emphasis right now in creating standards and in talking about it, it doesn't need to be about high dynamic range or anything. It needs to be about connectivity.
Well, the problem there for me is that we have the most recent version of HDMI, HDMI 2.0, which they don't really want to use that number, but we will for ease here, is already kind of limited bandwidth-wise for being able to transmit and transport as much information as ultimately I think you and I certainly want to see.
Well, certainly if I want to do 60 hertz 444 and I want to do it at 10 bits, HDMI, the current version, isn't going to work. This concerns me in multiple aspects. The DisplayPort, it can do much more now, but by December there will be a new version of DisplayPort that is going to be able to do very much more than is even speculated for the next generation of HDMI, not the current generation of HDMI. So, and not only that, the new version of DisplayPort is going to be expandable without changing specifications. And so the new version of DisplayPort is going to be able to do a lot more than anything that's been publicly discussed for a future version of HDMI. And it can do it over one connector and over a much longer length than can be done for what is purported to be for HDMI. But the beauty of DisplayPort is that it can be expanded by the number of connectors that's already built into DisplayPort, so that 10 years from now, if we are all getting 4320p and we're getting it at 120 hertz, and yes, we're going to need more than one DisplayPort connection. Well, DisplayPort can do 1, 2, or 4 the way it's built. So you just end up adding additional connections to get there.
Sort of like SDI. This is a professional standard.
Yes, it is taking on the same situation where SDI alone had a limitation. Well, we just had another one, and now we've got twice the limitation, or 4 times the original limitation. So I honestly see connectivity as being so important that if we could create an expandable connectivity system that has a 20-year future, that first of all gives everybody breathing room on the source end and the destination end to figure out how they're going to implement things. If the connectivity is there, it means that the consumer is guaranteed that whatever we deliver in the future, they can get. And with an interface box, a set-top box, no matter what they buy today, it is going to have some compatibility with the future system.
The problem that I see, though, I mean, I certainly understand what you're saying, but HDMI is so ubiquitous in the consumer space. DisplayPort is very common in the computer space, but are manufacturers of AVRs, AV receivers, and TVs and source devices and so on going to switch from HDMI hardware to DisplayPort hardware? Is that going to be a tough sell?
What I see DisplayPort doing, if nothing more, is creating a challenge to HDMI. In other words, DisplayPort is going to be so much better than HDMI. If HDMI is to continue to exist, it's going to have to answer the challenge that is being put forward by DisplayPort. So I'm not necessarily hanging my hat on DisplayPort. What I am hanging my hat on is that they have a solution that is good for the next 20 years. And if DisplayPort doesn't come up with that kind of solution, yeah, I'm sorry, if HDMI, thank you. If HDMI, too many letters, if HDMI doesn't come up as their next generation, if they don't come up with something that can do as well as DisplayPort, it has not the value that I need it to have. If that's the most polite way I can possibly put it.
Well, let's hope your vision comes to fruition. Thank you very much for talking with us.
Thank you.